It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between broken tables and broken tackles. And it lies between the pit of a Bills fan's fears and the summit of his hopes. This is the dimension of improbable victories, an area which we call the Josh Allen Zone.
Tonight on Blitzed, we'll recap the most unpredictable week in the NFL, where underdogs won, favorites lost, and the Patriots got pounded in Detroit. Beer's gonna taste great this week, so crack a cold one. It's time to get blitzed. Welcome to Blitzed, where we talk NFL and rate popular drinks at the same time. After this last week, something's become pretty clear to us. We know about as much about predicting football as Clay Matthews does about legal tackling.
Oh, come on.
So tonight, we're talking about the unpredictability of the NFL. But first, let's introduce our hosts.
Introducing tonight's starting lineups. The coach,
Seriously, I did not know about this. This is so awesome.
the rookie,
Get out there and smash.
and stats.
I'm just the stats guy. I have no idea.
That's kind of my thing. That's kind of my thing.
On Sunday, the Bills pulled off arguably the biggest upset since the NFL merger. Not to mention the Lions beating the Patriots and the Titans upsetting the Jags on the road.
Amazing.
So we'll be talking with Fat Jack from Fat Jack Sports, a professional gambling handicapper, about the impact these upsets have on betting lines.
I need his help.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. We'll also be talking with Danyel Renee from Buffalo Rumblings about how the Bills pulled off that improbable win. And to commemorate that win, tonight we're drinking Labatt's Blue,
Love it.
the blue cheese
Yeah.
of beers for Buffalo fans.
Sort of blue cheese.
Guys,
Sort of love it.
Yeah, that name.
So what do you guys
name
think?
Suits.
Average?
That's a pretty good.
Is that okay?
That's a pretty.
Is that okay? This is a beer.
Yeah, it's a beer.
You know what I mean? It's not awful,
beer.
and it's not great. It's just a beer.
I was gonna say this certainly tastes like beer.
Yeah, it's just a beer.
Yeah.
And that's the best I can do.
In good ways
I
and
really am
bad.
just like, yeah, it's going down fine, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Sure.
It's a not memorable beer.
My word would be sure.
Eh? Sure, eh?
Sure.
Take one.
In a wild week where six favorites didn't just not cover the spread, they didn't even win. What movie would you say this is most like?
Didn't
Didn't
cover
did-
the spread.
Is it didn't not or did not? Didn't
not
Didn't,
cover.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
any
is that like a-
movie title with a double negative in it,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Okay.
triple negative?
Triple negative.
Didn't not cover?
Didn't. Oh,
Didn't
is that
do.
double?
Not.
Just not but.
Right. However,
There you go. Okay. Okay. All right.
all right. I went first last week.
You did. So I'm gonna go first this week, and this one's really.
Oh, rookie.
I think this is a really good fit. I think it's a really good fit for you guys too, because it's right in your era. You
Oh,
know,
so it was in
sometimes-
1978
Yeah.
for the coach.
No, it's actually. Let's see here. It's 1953.
Oh.
Actually,
Deep.
1956.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I thought
appreciate
it would.
that. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to go too recent.
Brings back early childhood.
The movie is. The movie is Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, interesting.
nice.
And
Okay.
I'm going to read an
Did they switch?
excerpt.
Did they switch jerseys in these games?
I'm gonna read an excerpt.
An excerpt.
Excerpt.
The kids say exert.
Excerpt.
Yeah. Exert.
Yeah. Things have changed since 56. Man. Dr. Miles Bennell is baffled when all his patients come to him with the same complaint. Their loved ones seem to have been replaced by emotionless imposters.
Ooh.
Despite others' dismissive denials, Dr. Bennell, his former girlfriend Becky, and his friend Jack discover that the patient's suspicions are true. An alien species of human duplicates grown from plant-like pods is taking over town.
Please listen. If you don't, if you won't, if If you fail to understand, then the same incredible terror that's menacing me will strike at you!
It's amazing he committed all that to memory.
I know.
I did.
It sounds like he's reading it, but he's not.
He's not. He's really not. We're here.
Incredible.
We can prove he didn't just. He didn't not read that.
I did not read that.
But yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happened here?
So what happened was an alien
Sounds
species
riveting, but
flew down and took over the bodies of certain people on these teams.
Right.
My point is this. This was not a trend. This was not these teams aren't all of a sudden going to go on a 10-game winning streak. This was an alarming
Anomaly.
This was a bunch of imposters appearing, for a brief period, and things will go back to the way they were. Never seen the movie, actually, so if you guys can offer any insight,
Don't have a lot to go on there. What I hear is there's some invasion and there's some body snatchers.
Yeah.
That's
people aren't as they
are
seem.
not as they seem.
Right.
Right. Yeah. They've been replaced by emotionless duplicates.
Worst take ever. Okay, let's Coach. What do you got?
I have a lot lighter take on this.
All right. Yeah.
Because I don't have much to say on movies. No.
Yeah.
Light as in
like nothing. Actually, I'm done now. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite movies. This for me. This is a ridiculous classic. It's a true underdog story.
Dodgeball.
Boom.
You're going to learn to be true dodgeballers. Then you've got to learn the 5 Ds of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
That was a bit on the nose, right?
A little bit.
Well, and here's
like more so than Body Snatchers.
Not quite. It's very close, though.
Okay.
But here's the little tagline: Can the average Joes rise to the challenge? And this is underdog. This is what I kind of we're in the same vein in that these groups had great days yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I don't believe that these teams are going to continue exceeding expectations for the rest of the season.
So we didn't have similar takes. You just copied my take. No, but I agree with you.
No, it is. I mean, we don't expect Buffalo to go like 13-3 or something crazy like that, right? And a lot of these teams, I mean, they had a great day, a great plan. I mean, you look at Patricia with Detroit, looking at the Patriots, knowing their defense and how to attack it. I mean, these are just that circumstance where the Bills had about 27 turnovers, which didn't hurt. So there were circumstances that Revolver played great games, but I don't think anybody expects this to continue, right?
Nope.
So 9 times out of 10, the dodgeball idiots that won that game don't win that the final match. That was just a special day.
Average Joe's wins in a shocking upset.
I feel shocked.
Any given Friday.
Yes, for the
dodgeball.
For dodgeball,
Yeah.
Take 2.
For the third week in a row, Clay Matthews.
Matthews.
Beautiful hair.
Matthews.
Gorgeous hair.
Beautiful hair.
Pert plus hair.
Nice.
Come on. You think that fucking guy uses Pert Plus? It's like Tresemme.
It's Pert Extreme Plus.
Yeah.
Tresemme.
So Clay Matthews had a roughing the passer call called on him for the third week in a row, significantly changing the game that his team was in. My question is, does the NFL hate Clay Matthews, or does Clay Matthews just hate the Packers?
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
I'm gonna.
Rookie's gonna jump in.
I want to
go?
jump in here.
Does this matter to you?
First of all, Clay Matthews doesn't hate the Packers. Let's get that out there. But I'm going to take the high road here, and everyone's blaming the referees, or I don't think it's 50-50. I think the first hit was basically it was pretty evident that Clay was in the wrong. Second hit, because there's been 3 in 3 straight weeks.
A lot of evidence out there.
A lot of evidence.
Yeah.
Second hit was more in Clay's favor, and this one exactly the same. This isn't Clay's fault. This isn't the referee's fault.
Agreed.
This is the fact that this rule has been put in place without thought of the effects, the impacts of it, and the referees are trying to call, by the letter of the law, the right call on the field.
Yep.
And Clay, you can tell, is actually trying to change his approach to hitting the quarterback week in, week out. We've got 3 weeks of this. We can see the tapes. So this is kind of a failure on neither the referee nor Clay Matthews. This is a failure on the league. It was, and both sides are trying to do their best. And I don't know what the response is, but that's my take.
Do you know what the crazy irony is? Do you know why this rule's here?
Because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yes. The football gods have spoken.
Yeah.
Mailman. Mailman.
It was a wild, unpredictable week in the NFL, especially from a betting standpoint. So to make some sense of it all, we're talking to Fat Jack, owner of Fat Jack Sports, a professional handicapper in Vegas. Hey, Fat Jack, welcome to Blitzed.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, that's actually a bad term. It's kind of like used car dealer. So there's not a union. And when you say handicapper, I know a lot of people think, well, this guy's got to be sleazy. So I'll take the moniker if we have to do it. So.
What term would you like to be known as, Fat Jack?
I mean, that's all I've got right now. So, I mean, I'm a sports gambler who happens to sell his selections to other people. But we'll go with sports handicapper.
I love it.
There's not a union. If there was, they'd kick me out.
Okay, Fat Jack, how typical a week is it where 6 favorites not only don't cover the spread, but they don't even win their games?
No, definitely not typical. I mean, last year you had about almost 55 to almost 60% of the favorites won. Doesn't mean they cover all the time, but I know that the average guy out there that bets on games right now is wanting to pull his hair out because he has absolutely no idea what's going on. This last week was really an anomaly in that you had a lot of underdogs not only not cover, but not win. So what happens in the NFL, and the average guy needs to keep in mind, is that you're never as bad as you appear, and you're really never as good as you appear. That really goes for that middle 80%. I mean, you typically, and this last week, it was even more than that. Buffalo, you normally would say, well, they're not going to win very many games. This last week, even they jumped up and did really well. But and New England, on the other end of that spectrum, they've lost 2 in a row. But typically, that's kind of the rule of thumb. You're never as bad as you appear, nor are you as good as you appear in the NFL. And that really stumps a lot of average sports bettors.
So speaking of the Bills, I mean, they pulled off arguably the biggest upset since the NFL merger. So what kind of effect does that have in Vegas, and how will it affect handicapping going forward?
They probably made a deal with the devil. And there's probably some type of a debt that will be paid later on down the line. I mean, they may have to put a goat on their team or something. I mean, I say it tongue in cheek, but I mean, honestly, that was one of those weird things that even a sports gambler, there's very few guys out there that would have been able to predict that. The best you can hope for is stay away from that type of situation. Mm-hmm. The line really allows you to, when you have that many points, you can say, okay, I think Buffalo might be able to stay within that many points, so I'll take them plus the 17. But if somebody told you, hey, I love the Bills straight up on Sunday, they're probably doing some serious drugs and you should buy them from them. To add with whatever you're drinking on Sunday, because that's probably the best thing you should do. Because nobody's going to be able to predict something like that as a 17-point underdog to win straight up. But covering, that's a different story. I don't have any idea why that happened. Anybody says they do is probably lying to you.
No. Fat Jack, there are certain teams that are notorious for hiding injuries. The Patriots. How do you deal with that when you're handicapping games?
Yeah, they had a lot more than injuries. I mean, they're not afraid to hide a lot of things. Here's the deal with the Patriots. The good news about New England is that you're almost always going to get value betting against them. And that's something, if you listen to me go on around the country, you'll hear me talk about. And it's been taken away a tiny bit because they've been losing, but really not so much because the average moron, the guy with ever been to Las Vegas, it's the guy with $50 in one hand and a foot-long drink tied around his neck in the other.
We love those guys.
So, stone belly, and he's burnt, and he's got a tank top on showing off guns and that fat dripping off him. He just rolled out of the pool with flip-flops. That guy rolls up to the window. He wants to bet what he knows. And he's playing New England. That guy knows Tom Brady. He loves Tom Brady. I mean, he knows he's going to score some points. And he doesn't know what a line is. All he knows is Tom Brady's the man. He's going to score touchdowns. And so he goes up with his $50 and a dream. And he bet, well, that creates value because the line setters are looking for 50% of the money on one side and 50 on the other. So that idiot, he's creating value on the other team most weeks. So I'm okay with them hiding some injuries and stuff because that idiot's going to go ahead and bet on Brady anyway most of the time. And so I'm going to normally, not always, but just as a blanket statement, I'm going to bet against New England more than I'm going to play with New England, because they're going to really have to be a whole lot better than whoever they're playing on a particular week for me to bet a team like New England. Anybody that is generally hot, that's not going to be a team that a sharp player is going to play. We're going to be looking for value in teams that, are undervalued, that a $50 guy is not going to be playing.
Wow. Hey, what's the biggest upset you've ever seen in terms of money in the NFL?
Well, I mean, in the NFL, it's tough because you've got sharp players that are all kind of thinking one way, and then the other term is squares, and that's the guy I just kind of described. thinking
Love those guys.
And they're thinking the other way. And so we're looking for those teams. Last week it was New Orleans. A lot of sharp players were on New Orleans against Atlanta, and they were lucky to get there. It took overtime. Last year there were a whole bunch of them from a Vegas standpoint. You had teams that the general public were playing, and then they were getting there week in and week out. And that's bad for a guy like me. You want teams like Jacksonville's a bad example this year, but last year Jacksonville would have been a good example. A team that wasn't doing very well early in the season, you want them to cover. A team like Detroit this year that started out slow and people didn't think they were going to do very well. You're finding some value there. People, after week one, they're throwing the ball. It looked like the coach had come in and said, hey, Stafford, go ahead and throw it to the other team 3 or 4 times a game. That's my game plan. And, I know we didn't do that a lot with New England, but I really feel like they were hampering my ability to do that. So it looked like that's what he was kind of preaching, right? So after week one, everybody's like, they're going to give up on that game plan. They're going to lose 2 or 3 in a row. Well, we took advantage of that. Played the Dolphins a bunch this year. So we're looking for those type of things. So, I mean, as far as big money goes, I mean, it's hard to say because it just depends from week to week.
When you're handicapping games, what's the most bizarre kind of factor you take into consideration that a typical fan wouldn't even be aware of?
There are some trends that are kind of interesting that the average guy will know nothing about, that sharps are on. And one of the mother of all trends actually happening this Thursday night. I mean, you have, and this rarely happens, but this Thursday you've got Minnesota going and playing the Rams. And
great game.
It says since 1999, I mean, this goes back a long time, and I'm not a huge trend guy, but since 1999, a team that plays on Sunday and then has to travel over 1,500 miles over 2 time zones.
All
right?
Sweet.
So I know, but think about the logistics of this. And has to play on Thursday, so very short week. Play Sunday, no day off on Monday. Has to play a short week. They are 1-12, both straight up and against the number, playing on Thursday night.
Wow!
And so that's only, and not all of those have been underdogs. A lot of times, those are about 3 or 4 times. Those have been favorites. Denver comes to mind. There's a couple more. This situation happens twice this year, and those are things that the general public knows nothing about. And we felt like that was going to be a good spot. If Minnesota had taken care of business and beaten, they had not made a deal with the devil and gotten beat by Buffalo, this number would have been 2 or 3. There might have been a good spot. But that's something to kind of pay attention as we go through this week. But this spot, if Minnesota was somehow able to even cover the 6.5 or 7 on Thursday, that's something that literally never has happened only one time.
Has the NFL's new helmet rule changed over-unders significantly since it was introduced?
The rules, I think gamblers, just like everybody else, are not only pulling their hair out, and players are probably having to go to smaller helmet sizes because they're pulling their hair out. But the average gambler, and I'm sure the fans, are like everybody else, trying to figure out how to figure it out because we're adjusting on the fly. I mean, some of the things that are going on, Green Bay's linebacker, he keeps running into. I mean, some of the late hits, the roughing the passers, and even just formed tackles that are happening down the field are so ridiculous and so far from what we know as football that, I mean, the totals have come up for sure. The first couple of weeks, almost all the games were going over. 75% of the games are going over, and that's because you're getting free yards. I mean, every time that you get a roughing the passer, you're getting 15 yards at a time, and you equate those into free yards. It's like throwing a 15-yard out route.
How will legalized gambling across the states affect handicapping in the NFL, if at all?
It's been amazing, even so far. I mean, it's like alcohol prohibition. I know you guys are probably ass hammered drunk right now, and hope you understand the comparison.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
shut up.
Exactly. It's like prohibition is for alcohol. I mean, you guys would be drunk whether it was legal or you are not. You know what I mean? I mean, you're going to.
We would find a way.
Yeah.
We would find a way.
Exactly. You'd have your moonshine guy come pull his little Volkswagen up to the building and drop it off in his milk carton and move on down. Same thing with gambling. People have been gambling since the beginning, and they're going to gamble no matter what. But I will tell you, with the legalization, it has certainly exploded. It's been more mainstream. You guys have sure seen it on ESPN and other places. And from a handicapper standpoint, this is my 20th year of doing this. I've been inundated. I'm one of the few guys that actually tells the truth. I post my results. Everybody gets the same picks. And those type of things have paid off. Me doing this for 19 years the right way, quote unquote, have really helped me, because I've now been getting calls from a lot of people to wanting me to come on with them and do different things. As far as making the money side of it, it's absolutely healthy and going to continue to do so, because you have so many more of those $50 idiots I was talking about. Guys getting in, they got some money and they don't know what they're doing. And unfortunately for them, they're not going to all sign up for my service or somebody that knows what they're doing. They're going to learn the hard way that 96% of sports bettors on a yearly basis lose money. And you can, people can Google that. I mean, this is a national statistic. The Las Vegas Review-Journal has done a number of studies on this, and people should Google that out there. It's very difficult to consistently win betting on sports, and so they'll learn the hard way. And as they're learning the hard way, guys like myself, and not just me, but guys like myself will be taking advantage of that. So it'll create more value in teams that the general public wouldn't even think about playing. So it's going to be a great 10 to 15 years until that learning curve kind of catches up.
Wow. Okay, Fat Jack, we'll get you out of here on this. When you handicap Patriots games, do you ever consider how much people hate Tom Brady as a factor?
I do take that into consideration, but I hate them because there are. It's love or hate, and nobody just says, they're okay. Nobody says that. You either love them or hate them, but for everybody that hates them, there's 20 guys out there, like I said, that is sunburned with a drink around their neck and flip-flops in a dream, and they say, I need that guy to score 5 touchdowns today, brah. Let's bet up. Let's do it. I need to get even. I lost all my money, man. Dude's wicked smart. He's going to win.
Wicked smart. He's from Boston for sure.
I love it.
It's a Boston guy.
Him every week in Las Vegas, and they're over there kicking that lineup so that I can bet the other side. So bring it on. More the merrier.
I love it.
My dude's wicked smart.
Easy money.
Fat Jack, this has been an education.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us on Blitzed.
Guys, have a great weekend, all right? Enjoy yourself, and don't drive.
Got it. Nicely done, man. Nicely done.
That was Fat Jack from Fat Jack Sports. If you want to become wicked smart at betting, check out Fat Jack's handicapping service at fatjacksports.com.
Hey Blitzers, if you love the NFL and you love drinking, you should love the Packers and our podcast. We're the Titletown Sound podcast. We bring you everything Packers from a fan's point of view. And we know one thing that's true. Tom Brady sucks. TitletownSoundoff.com, on iTunes or anywhere you find podcasts.
Take 3.
It's been nearly 16 years since the Patriots lost back-to-back games by double-digit margins. I almost can't get these words out of my mouth. Is it over in New England?
We all hope so. We all hope so. What is that? My mind says, or my heart says yes. Yeah. My mind says no.
No, it's not over.
I honestly, but they do this every year. Where they do not every year, but often they come out a bit weak. Yeah. They come out with these flaws or whatever. They fix them and they go on a big run and they're 12-4 again. Right?
Yep.
Is this the year? It sure could be. It sure could be. I mean, they don't have the receivers. I don't know if Josh Gordon's the second coming of Randy Moss or anything else, if he's going to stick around even head space-wise. So it's looking like the most likely year that it could be this year because it's just their defense isn't great. Their offense isn't firing. I don't know. We'll see.
When you were watching that Lions game, it looked to me like Brady is lost without an Edelman or an
exactly.
Amendola or a Welker.
That's exactly
for the new offense.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is like when you watch the tape, Gronk is double teamed. There's a funny play where he's triple teamed, and he is so frustrated. He looks like he's been out all night. His shirt's untucked. He's just he's just so mad. But he was double teamed all night and triple teamed on occasion. And without their slot receiver, Hogan has had to move into the slot. He's not a slot receiver. He's like a deep threat. He's fast. He like, you know, he's basically like manning the sidelines, that guy. But Brady looks completely lost.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because he doesn't have that slot receiver who's basically like his parachute, you know, that he's used so well. Name them all. I mean, it's ridiculous, the guys. So yeah, it looks to me as though if Gordon can be that guy that can stretch the field a little bit, then they've got Hogan and Gordon. They've got Gronk, obviously, but once they get Edelman back, I mean, things will come together. You're right. Like this is the Pats. They're not done. They still have White. They still have the Rook, Sonny,
Sonny Michel.
Sonny Michel. Yeah. So like they're still deadly. They just don't have. And then they lost Dorsett. So like they're just thin on the offensive side. I mean, it's tough.
I think they're done.
Yeah, I know you do.
I know you do, yeah.
I think they're done. Yeah. I make no apology.
Their goose is cooked.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
What movie tells it? I'm just kidding.
No! Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
The Bills pulled off one of the biggest upsets in league history,
awesome.
beating the Vikings 27-6 in Minnesota.
So good.
Bills Mafia went crazy over it. So we're talking with Danyel Renee from BuffaloRumblings.com. Hey, Danyel, welcome to Blitzed.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay, Danyel, everyone, including about 85% of Survivor Pool players, had the Vikings beating the Bills on Sunday. How did they overcome being such huge underdogs?
Well, you know, I did some spells, and, you know, I got my voodoo dolls out, and that's a big part of it. But, no, really, I think what happened, well, the first thing was, I mean, everybody thought that the offensive line has played terrible, which they actually haven't played as bad. But it was mainly like the center position. That was like a big point of contention for them, because that was just that was sloppy play from from Ryan Groy. So they changed that up, and Bodine came in and he became the center. And that actually, I think, helped. That gave them a little bit of a spark because he was a little bit better. A big part of it, Josh Allen, the time it took for them to snap the ball and then for him to throw the ball, it was like 3.36 seconds in the previous two games. He shaved almost a second off of that.
Wow.
So he was able to get the ball out a lot faster this week. Yeah, it was pretty incredible, actually. We were all surprised. He was making the right reads, getting the ball out fast. And, of course, I'm sure you've seen, you know, everybody talks about his strong arm, but he was able to just fit that ball into some tight windows. And really, I mean, he could have had a lot bigger of a stat line if I think his receivers had caught some of the balls that were right through their hands.
Kelvin Benjamin effect.
Oh, my goodness, Calvin Benjamin. I mean, Charles Clay, he dropped one. Yeah, Calvin Benjamin, I'm ready to move on from him. I'm tired of it. So I think there's that. So the offense, you know, even without Shady, I mean, they were playing well. And then you have the defensive side of the ball. They were just firing on all cylinders. I mean, every position, it was incredible. And honestly, I think last week during the final two quarters, Coach McDermott actually took over play calling for the defense from Leslie Frazier, and that gave them a spark. This week, Leslie Frazier, you know, he continued then to call the defensive plays. But I think what it was, the difference was that there wasn't a lot of exotic packages with the defense. There was a lot of four-man rushes, and they were doing what the guys do best. They were using their instinct. They were making tackles. They were hitting hard. If the ball was around them, they were like ball hawks. They saw the ball, and I think that was the biggest difference in the defense.
According to Next Gen Stats, Jerry Hughes had 15 pressures on Sunday, the most in an NFL game in the last 3 years. So what adjustments did the Bills make to ensure Hughes had such a monster game?
Honestly, I think that they just let them use their instinct. There was a simple four-man rushes. It was a lot of the bigger plays. You'll see it was just four men that they were rushing. And there is a lot of talent on the team. You know, defensive-wise, Trent Murphy, he's healthy. He helped a lot. He was in on like a sack, or, you know, Jerry Hughes had a sack, and Matt Milano, I think he had a sack and an interception. I mean, it was just they all played together. They played as a team, and they played well. So I think that was it. I think they simplified it for the defense. And also I read, too, that Jerry Hughes, I think he's tied with Khalil Mack for first for the first 3 weeks with the most pressures. So even though we got blown out those first 2 weeks, he's still tied for first with Mack, which is pretty incredible.
Don't let his agent hear that.
He'll be going to the Raiders soon.
Yeah, we'll.
Yeah.
We don't have John Gruden, so I think we're okay.
So, Danielle, since Vontae Davis infamously retired at halftime of the Chargers game, the Bills have outscored their opponents 41-9. Do you think this is a good strategy going forward? And if so, who do you think should retire next?
A good strategy going forward. Let me tell you, what's funny is my brother is a huge Colts fan. We're actually going to be at the Colts-Bills game coming up. And he said to me, Vontae Davis is just like, he's odd. He's an odd bird. And he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if Vontae Davis doesn't even know he's retired yet. He thinks it's just like they're on a bye week. So it was kind of funny. I kind of wanted to make a meme out of it, but no, I don't think that's a good strategy going forward because Sean McDermott he just preaches like the brotherhood thing. I mean, that's just like a really big thing for him. I know a lot of his teammates were pretty upset at what happened. But, in all fairness, too, Vontae Davis hadn't been there that long. I mean, we just picked him up this offseason.
Apparently, you confessed on Twitter earlier today that for the first time ever, you had a beer during the Bills game. Good for you, number one. And number two,
well, thanks.
Would you like to replace Coach on this show?
Whoa.
It's just a question.
I'm there. I'm ready. Let's go.
Good stuff.
Okay,
Not
good.
that we're making a list or anything.
All right, Bill, you're out.
Yeah.
There's the door.
Yes, I did have a beer for the first time, though. It's like such a serious thing for me. And I remember when I went to college in Philadelphia, so I always had to go to a Bills backers bar in order to see the games, obviously. And I wouldn't drink. Like, I would sit there and I would sit at a table and I'd talk to people and be like, oh, do you want something to drink? Nope, everybody's drinking, getting rowdy. Not me. I'm, nail biting, staring at the screen, freaking out, getting all, nervous and excited, and my cheeks would be all red, and I'd have a migraine by the end of it. But yesterday I thought, you know what? I'm so stressed out about this whole thing, and I was like, my heart told me that the Bills were going to win, but my mind was like, the Bills are going to get stomped. So my brother was here to watch his game, and he said to me, do you want a beer? I got a 6-pack. I was like, no, I'm good. And then he started to walk away. I said, you know what? I'm going to have one.
Yes.
I'm just going to have one.
Smart.
And I had one, and this was the outcome, so I think I need to at least have one every week. I mean, that's like a new ritual, right?
That's our strategy, too.
Yeah.
At least one every week.
Yeah.
At least one.
I tell myself
Loosen up a little
every
bit.
week.
Maybe it loosens venom up on the field a little bit. So
I tell myself every week I'll just have one.
Yep.
And then I'm sleeping on Roger's couch.
Yeah,
that's right.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah.
Every
Class.
time. Rookie mistake.
I don't want to know what happens when I have like 6. I don't know. Maybe there'll be,
That feels like a Super Bowl to
That's
me.
it.
It only
Right?
gets better. The more you have, the better it is.
That's right.
Okay, so Danielle, why don't you give us a prediction for the rest of the season for the Bills? How do you think it's going to work out for them?
Well, I guess it depends on how many beers I have.
I like it.
So, I mean,
Okay.
I like
Very
it.
That's what that's dependent on. So, I think at the beginning of the year, before we played any games, I think I said I could see like between 6 to 8 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm still sticking with that number. They're still not there as a team yet. They're still learning to trust each other, learning to play as a team. We still need a few pieces. We definitely need to upgrade the offensive line. There's a couple defensive pieces that we probably would need, especially that second cornerback position. That's kind of, since Vontae retired or quit and Philip Gaines has been hurt. So there's some pieces. So I think, 6 to 8 is still fair. I don't think we'll make the playoffs this year, but next year, for sure. I mean, next year we have, 10 draft picks and, like $90 million in cap space or something crazy. And I really think that we'll be able to pick up a lot of the pieces that we need. So I'm really excited for next year.
Danielle, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It was great to have you on Blitzed.
Thank you. It was an honor.
That's Danyel Renee from one of the best NFL fan websites around, BuffaloRumblings.com.
Take 4.
This is a little segment we're going to call Fan of the Week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's fans?
Well, it doesn't
No,
matter. It's just a fan.
Just fan.
Oh.
We
Fan.
only have one. So
A spinning fan?
Just fan of the week.
Okay.
That's all
Yeah.
this is.
Okay.
Not only is Greg Pleasant a diehard Browns fan who is stuck with the team through bad times and worse times.
Good man.
In their come-from-behind victory last Thursday night, he helped catch a possum who got loose in the stadium.
saw that.
Greg isn't the hero we deserve.
Oh.
He's the hero we needed.
Oh.
And another thing for you here, Coach. They've also changed the name of the stadium from the Factory of Sadness to the Bakery.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Now, do you think the possum factored in there?
Wow.
I heard Possum Tail's pretty good.
Amazing.
Times are a-changing in Cleveland.
I love it. I really love it. I don't care about the Brands, and I'm so happy for that franchise.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all. It's just nice to see Mayfield there just slinging it like nothing else.
Yeah.
Like that was just fun to watch.
There was a point where Mayfield came on and it became must-watch TV.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not
incredible.
That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
He came on the field.
Yeah.
Twitter blew up. There was probably one tweet that said Baker's in, and it became 10 million viewers. I think I read. It was must-watch TV.
It's electric.
I'll be watching him week in and week out.
Oh yeah,
and that is something that you never want to wish bad times for that long against a fan base. Like, you never want that.
You know what I really hope is they don't play the Packers because that fucking Clay Matthews is going to just break his collarbone.
That's a good point. Great point.
So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They should put in rules to stop those jackasses like that.
Clay's going to be the next guy with a torn ACL because he tries so hard not to get a penalty. He's going to be, what do I have to do here? Good for you, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Happy for
It
you.
is awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
I love to hear it.
Absolutely.
I think that's a wrap here, guys.
All right.
That's all we have time for this week. But wanted to throw a special shout out to Danyel Renee, who joined us from BuffaloRumblings.com.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Awesome job, Danyelle. And also to our man in Vegas, Fat Jack from FatJackSports.com, giving us all the ins and outs of how to lose your money because 96% of people who bet on sports lose their money.
Sign me up now.
Unfortunately, I'm still going to lose all my money.
I'm still a square.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And always will be.
Yeah, you're wearing a sleeveless shirt as we're recording here.
And you got that yard-long drink.
I got the yard-long drink.
around your neck.
Yeah. Sunburn. I'm all in. I'm all in.
How'd you get a sunburn? It was overcast.